Okay, welcome everybody to our session called Why B2B Marketers Need People-Based Strategy in ABM-Focused World. My name is Dmitry Lisitsky, and I'm CEO of Influ2, the first person-based advertising platform. And I'm excited to welcome Ari Kapagenis, who is Director of Revenue Marketing at NVIDIA.
Thank you, Dmitry. I'm glad to be here. Very excited to be talking about Influ2, person-based marketing in the ABM world. But let's dive right into it. So old school view, lead generation. Marketing is concerned with getting leads. We're going to have some point system that's going to drive them towards an MQL threshold, a marketing deemed qualified lead. We're going to throw them over the fence and we're going to pat each other on the back on how great we've done and the leads we've generated. Everything from that point forward is on the sales organization to figure out what's what and drive revenue. It's a very old school focus that in B2B today is surprisingly still used. The MQL is still used as an indicator on how well marketing is doing. And any marketer worth their salt knows that there's an easy way to gamify that metric and drive that up. So that old school view started to shift towards this idea of marketing technology and the marketing technologist. And we started driving more and more money into the budgets of marketers. Allowed us to build up platforms for data sources and intelligence, platforms for cleansing and augmentation, our CRM map systems integrated, our scoring and routing, be getting revenue ops orchestration, and then a focus on engagement on and off site. And then, well, we don't know what we're doing now with all this in the mix, so we got to bolt on reporting and attribution. And what you end up with is a tech stack slide is essentially budget boasting on the part of the VP or CMO. Like, look what we've built. This is amazing. 70–80% of this doesn't have a champion, and it's essentially shelfware and probably doing more harm to the organization than anything. And half the enablement plays that we put in place here, we've kicked over to sales saying, okay, now you guys should do really well. We're generating leads, we're throwing them over the fence, we've bought you all this technology, everything should be great. New school is a whole focus now on account orchestration. It's getting beyond that lead focused view and saying, hey, how do we drive qualified accounts into the hands of sales? How do we leverage this technology and champion it such that the orchestrations, the digital experiences, the targeted plays that we have in the mix are touching not just net new names, but everything from the accounts that we've qualified as being in market, what the current conversations they are having with the sales organization, the conversations from getting a meeting in place all the way to close one business. How are we enabling that end to end, blurring the lines between two different organizational structures, sales and marketing, into one revenue ops cycle? The problem with that is, as good as you might be on this whole account orchestration focus and modern thinking, in any organization at scale, you'll end up with, say, 40 marketers, 20 marketers in the mix, all working in silo. You've got somebody in charge of email nurtures, somebody in charge of retargeting, paid ads, content syndication. You've got an outbound, inbound SDS org, each doing their own thing based on where somebody is in this threshold. Do they drop into this nurture versus that nurture? And then as I MQL or I SQL or I'm an automation qualified lead, I drop into new display retargeting, new email nurtures. For each of these target accounts that we're going after, you on average have 9+ decision-making unit members in there, comprised of 3 varying core DMU roles. So as I pepper anybody from these accounts coming in with this messaging, it's either irrelevant, of no interest to that individual from that decision-making unit role, or simply confusing. And as well, if I get hit from 6–8 different sources between banner ads and email and digital experiences of varying quality and varying messaging, I'm siding with the worst one as far as what this company is really about. So, I always tout the most simplistic view is within any decision-making unit or account that I'm going after, I've got the C-level individual who's concerned with saving money and making money. I've got the staff level individual who's kicking the tires on my trials and demos, and then IT, who's the final decision maker as to whether I can actually use this technology or not. If I don't drop these people into those relevant experiences and have cohesion amongst all these traditional marketing levers, this whole focus on ABM just creates a mess. So it brings about, as I said, a case for relevance. Typically in the past, if an org, old school lead gen was looking to scale, the CMO would come and say to the SDO individual, we have to increase on-site visitors from 20,000 to 40,000. It's much easier to increase on-site conversion from 2 to 4% than to say somehow I'm going to stand with a sandwich billboard somewhere out on the street and get 20,000 more people to hit my site. You have crumbs on the table, typically what I tell people as far as what's being left behind between abandoners on forum pages, looking at optimizing the experiences, and then just creating these relevant experiences for these DMU members and the accounts that we're going after. So person-based marketing, or PBM, in this ABM focused world, ABM is shortcutting. You know, I tell people all the time, if you look at a sci-fi movie and you've got Matt Damon stuck on a planet somewhere and he's no idea how he's going to get home, or light years away, and the scientist comes to him and says, well, actually, you know, it's not from here to here. And he folds a piece of paper and he pokes a hole through it and says, this is what we have to do. It's an Einstein-Rosenbridge wormhole. That's great, but you've basically taken every DMU member and just assumed because they're from this account in this industry, any message for them with their logo slapped on it is going to be relevant and resonate. It's just not the case. As you pull that back and extrapolate between the DMU roles within those accounts and the varying levels of engagement and awareness, you create these distinct swim lanes, which begets person-based marketing. And these person-based marketing swim lanes, you're creating relevant experiences to go from that 2 to 4% or exponentially beyond that on conversion versus worrying about how am I going to get more people on my site. The in-market individuals are there on your site, you need to capture them. So Influ2's fit in person-based marketing orchestration, we're at the point now where instead of worrying about a lead and throwing leads over the fence, we're looking at targeted account decision-making unit members. As they come in, we're not worried about them hitting an MQL threshold. We're worried about identifying in-market accounts, where they are intent level amongst these varying members, and then identifying automation qualified leads, getting beyond this whole marketing knows who sales should be going after. We take the automation qualified leads in our world, identify them to bubble them up for the SDS or sales development specialists to set meetings up against, and then create all these varying traditional marketing lever tracks that are relevant for that DMU member, bolt-on account orchestration plays to increase contact coverage for these in-market accounts, and then leverage Influ2 to have person-based marketing ads going right to that individual, whatever platform we can match them against in social media, LinkedIn, and the like. It's fantastic. We get in front of the DMU member with the right message at the right time at their stage of awareness, at their stage of the journey. We go from worrying about net new leads and MQLing to touching them all the way through their journey with us, including mitigating churn and focusing on customer success with a focus on lifetime value. That is new school marketing. That is revenue focused. And that's where Influ2's fit is with us in this model.
Okay, so like a quick question, like why we built Influ2? And I think what we didn't like about existing ABM solutions, what we call low resolution ABM, basically there are three things. One thing is when you think about existing ABM approach, you target all company employees, and there are some ways to improve it. But still, there is like tiny buying group that you really want to go after, and we believe that you want to go after these specific people, not just everybody or somebody inside target accounts. Second, vast majority of engagements, remain unknown. So, like if you run typical ABM campaigns and you do a lot of engagement, you get a lot of engagements from advertising, but you still don't know who are these people. You can know what accounts they're coming from, but you don't know people, and this is crucial. And third, when you consider advertising as a part of bigger, or ABM effort, you never know exactly if you're talking to the same people in your advertising campaigns versus other ABM activities. So you really cannot say it was well orchestrated if you don't know if you're talking to the same audience. Just a quick example of the first problem. Let's consider Microsoft as a potential target account for your campaign. If you go after the whole account, you really target 156,000 employees. That's your target market when you run ABM campaign targeting Microsoft. And you might reach, say, 5,000 people, which it doesn't sound bad. I mean, like this is kind of, it looks like a good, level of engagement on the account level, but these are 5,000 people out of 156,000 employees. And the question is like, what are the chances you are reaching anyone from 400 people that are in your buying committee. So this is huge difference, and like it's very hard to say if you reach anyone from them. And the way we solve this problem is by actually targeting these buying committees, these specific people. So just to see how it works, from when actually run person-based advertising campaigns, you get a report where you can see exactly who you targeted and then what was the result of this activity. So you see, exactly if the person engaged with your advertising, and then when the engagement happened, if it was just a click or the person visited your website, and then if there are more interactions. And we collect all this information and then we pass it back to CRM. So actually your salespeople will appreciate this information and we can leverage this for their sales activities, for example. To sum how our clients use Influ2 is it can be actually applied almost every stage of the funnel. That's what Ari calls new school. So you can really target like top of the funnel opportunities where there's no prior history, prior activities. And then obviously you can go after any account and you will know exactly who is engaged with your advertising and what are the results. You can connect this to your existing, ABM or demand gen activities where you can, advertise to the same audience that is basically receiving your content through other channels. And obviously, like I think the biggest promise of ABM is that you connect sales and marketing organization. That's exactly what happens. So you can support any, like starting from sales development to middle of the funnel opportunities. Actually, you can advertise to existing customers. So you can support sales and expansion process throughout the buyer journey, and basically talk to the same people as your sales development will talking to, and then provide a lot of value, provide their cover for the activities.
So thanks, Dmitry. I mean, it's amazing. It's the whole reason I've onboarded Influ2 at multiple organizations at this point, used through acquisition, funding rounds, and the like. It's just that perfect foundational piece of technology that I would have in a stack, that 30% that's actually championed by individuals that's actually doing something for my organization. And only in COVID would I be sitting in a situation, giving a presentation like this, worrying about the lawnmower that's right outside the window. So apologies if you can hear that. Touching on genres, the whole focus here in person-based marketing is hitting that right person at the right time with the right song for that B2B lifecycle acceleration. So as we touched on earlier, these person-based ads that I'm leveraging with a technology like Influ2 basically identify that in-market account, identify that DMU member, note that it's a named account lead, and then for each of these swim lanes that we have in place, we'll actually take that by role, chop it up by awareness stage, and then get the right asset in the hands of that individual. And typically this would require a few different marketers across a few different platforms when you're talking posting on social media and the like. With orchestration, what we're looking at is not worrying about the legwork to do the one-to-one or one-to-few for an entire quarter, but do ABM at that person level for as many people that hit your website as possible. It's just better tactics versus I'm going to put all my resources and eggs in this one basket for these two accounts. So we push these into Influ2 based on where they are in the by stage, by role, by account, by customer, non-customer, and then drive them to re-engage in their experiences instead of kind of spraying and praying based on soft firmographic demographic information and targeting. Overall performance-wise, for the two campaigns listed, for a fraction amount of the work that we've had in the past for what we would have called ABM under the PBM model, we've hit upwards of almost 29,000 of our targets that we've been going after, 10,000 of the accounts. I don't really talk too much on impressions and clicks, but at the engagement level, what we're talking about is automating orchestrations to create 273 engagements, actually get engaged in market DMU members in the hands of our sales organization through automated plays that in the past would have taken a lot of legwork over the course of a quarter or two. At the ROI level, if we're talking accounts, I'm able to automate this orchestration, hit an account that has these numbers on revenue, decision makers in the mix that we're actually targeting at an 89% account match rate. I'm driving impressions, engagement, and awareness to individuals that are purely, truly in market versus spray and pray and hope somebody bubbles through. We're getting to the right titles. We're accelerating the life cycle of these individuals. And as Dimitri touched on, a big focus for me is diversifying our intent data. It's not enough to take everything you have and put it into one platform and hope you throw the switch and then that's going to fix things. My focus has been getting the organization wherever I've been at beyond the MQL, get around an aligned automation qualified lead metric. And that metric typically is based on old school Marketo scoring, let's say, marketing driven scoring mechanisms towards some threshold, and then baking in account engagement and lead intent. It's not enough to say, okay, I'm going to go with this vendor, I'm going to pull that lead intent. That vendor has a certain number of listeners versus other listeners versus on-site behaviors versus third-party review sites and the like. The more I can take all that and bake that into a diversified intent metric, the more I actually am able to truly identify what's quality and what's not. So with the Influent 2 engagement, I'm not only going after these individuals, targeting specific individuals with the right experiences, but I'm actually able to score that intent data based on how they interact with this advertising, and then run super retargeting through Influent 2 as well at that individual level as they do come to the site and engage and keep the ball rolling forward. So what's next? My whole focus is merging sales and marketing. I think the initial slides that I'm a sales loving marketer. And I don't say that jokingly. There's a different chemical makeup traditionally in the past in old school between a sales role, sales persona, and a marketing individual. If you want to win in B2B, you get that kumbaya alignment. And it's not alignment from the sake of, hey, we invited marketing to our SCO, sales kickoff at the beginning of the year, and then we high-fived and we left. It's not alignment as far as, hey, we got together at the beginning of the quarter, we let marketing know what our target accounts are. We don't know what they're doing. They usually don't do too much for us anyways, but it was a good conversation. Then you get to monthly meetings. I run a weekly integrated pipeline analysis meeting traditionally wherever I'm at. But that still is kind of like a football play. We're going to huddle and we're going to break. We're going to talk about the play. We're going to walk out. And I hope each individual remembered what they were supposed to be doing. And I hope it works somehow. So the whole focus moving forward is how do we automate this in an orchestrated fashion? How do we get beyond the rift between sales wondering why marketing's determining what qualified leads they should be going after, and just automate this for every account that's in market at that person level for each of these DMU members? So separate psyches. This was the focus earlier on, it's still marketing driven. Marketing's organizing technology to try and enable sales, hopefully not causing them to have to do more work, but we've got new school thinking in the mix as far as in-market accounts and what decision-making unit members we're going after. We're driving automation qualified leads. We're leveraging Influent 2 to put the right ads in front of the right DMU members at the right stage they're at with the right message across a variety of platforms, and then scoring based on that engagement, bolting that into diversifying our intent data. The gap here is I'm still in a football huddle. I still broke with sales. And now I, or one of 20 to 40 marketers, is hoping I do the right thing I'm supposed to be doing with the right quality and the right message. And then hopefully it enables driving revenue down the chain. Now, when we talk about enrichment, when we talk about account identification, when we talk about lead scoring, there's always some kind of point bump or minus bump based on, is it a business email address or not? So if it's a business email address and a matched domain, it's fantastic, right? So I get a match, my enrichment plays come in, I get further data put into them, I'm able to run them through buying centers and orchestrate based on that, increase contact coverage, and the like, in addition to all the goodness that we're getting via Influent 2. But what about all the personal email addresses that come in? I mean, on average, I'll see 80% maybe are personal email addresses, if not more, if you're selling to developers who don't want you to know their business email. But the sales individual still on the phone with these individuals, still getting in contact. Even the requests for contact forms that are filled out are predominantly personal email addresses. So we don't have info on them. They don't fall into industry tracks. They're not seen by campaign managers that are in charge of particular industries or particular accounts and the like. But the sales individual's on the phone with them. So marketing kind of washes their hands of it and just assumes that's the population we didn't match. So we didn't enrich, we didn't run these plays for them and the like. So what if we're able to merge these psyches and create sales-driven digital marketing? So my focus right now is push-button orchestration for these tactics. That if I'm an SDS or BDR or what have you, and I'm on the phone with an individual right now that came in with a Gmail email address, so there's no info in our system for them. I hang up, I know they're a competitive shop, I know exactly what their pain point is. I know exactly what their role is. Traditionally, all that happens next is the BDR has a cadence as far as when they're going to reach out again, or maybe run an outreach sequence towards them and the like. They're not part of marketing tactics at this point. And if it's an outbound effort, they might be sales accepted, but that's about it. If I'm able to put these digital marketing tactics in the hands of my SDRs and BDRs, such that when they hang up, they can click button, trigger an orchestration for this competitive shop for this DMU member of this account, versus having to update data and hope everything enriches and the like. It's real-time orchestration. It's push button driven Influ2 ads in front of the DMU members from these accounts across a wide variety of platforms, right in real time in the hands of the sales org. That's my focus. I mean, the whole focus moving forward is blurring this line between old school marketing and old school sales into this new revenue focus. And not just saying we're revenue focused because I created some cool dashboards that show where my leads are creating revenue or not, but how do we get to one unit where it's real time, regardless of whether it's personal email address or business email address. So a lot of cool stuff on the deck, and I'm very happy to have Influ2 in the mix, accelerating that effort moving forward.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Ari, for this interesting, really exciting presentation. And it's always great to see, sales-loving marketers, because this is where you can see the most interesting strategies coming from. So really, and I believe they appreciate your support, because like under lockdown times, it becomes even more important and more difficult for them to do their jobs.
Dimitri, I'll say that we're not at that point yet. I can tell you, I'll hear when there's something wrong, but you'll never hear when there's something good. And I tell my team all the time, like, don't sit back waiting for a pat on the back. We're still sales and marketing, two different organizations. I firmly believe I've got one foot on either side, but the chemical makeup between the players in the mix are two distinctly different things.
Sure. Well, anyway, thank you. It's a really interesting presentation. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Dimitri.